Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Justin Young, and that man right there is none other than our Alabama expert, Garrett Tucker. We're going to talk about the Alabama team camp held over the weekend during the June NCAA Live Period at the lovely Finley Center at the Hoover Metplex. Garrett Tucker, what's up, buddy?
Hey, nothing much. Busy weekend, been on the road, but glad to sit down, kind of regurgitate everything that I saw. There was a lot, that's for sure.
Yep.
It was a great weekend in Birmingham, and kind of like we always say, it's hard to complain. We're at the Finley Center, state of the art facility. They had a great layout this weekend, so it was a really good weekend all around.
Really good weekend. I feel like the depth of talent in the state of Alabama is as good as I've seen it in the last 10 years. Really, really strong right now with talent, which certainly warranted for a good weekend for coaches all over the country. We're going to talk about your biggest takeaways, some of the best players, some of the storylines. We're going to talk about some of the best teams, some of the best guys that were kind of on the come up or really warranted maybe an uptick in their recruitment. And that's really what June's all about nowadays with their high school teams. College coaches can come out and watch them play scholastically, which we haven't had really ever until the last maybe 4 or 5 years now we've been doing this. So really good for the state of Alabama. You were there on Saturday, had a chance to really take it all in. We're going to go through that, and we're going to go ahead and jump right into it, Garrett. Let's start with the biggest storylines for you right out of the gate, your top takeaways. And I feel like there's a player in the state of Alabama that usually when there's a good player in Alabama, it's pretty regionalized recruitment. We know if they're a high major, it's going to be ACC, SEC. But we've got a player in the state of Alabama right now that's kind of warranting attention from really all over the country. And it seems to be happening pretty aggressively so far this spring and summer.
Yeah, and we're talking about Ty Davis from Mountain Brook. After the spring, his recruitment really took a jump, and it only continued this weekend. Obviously, I wasn't there Friday, but I know Greg McDermott from Creighton and Chris Collins from Northwestern. They were both there to see him on Friday. Assistants were around on Saturday. Also had an assistant from Oregon, Davidson. Bucky McMillan from Sanford was there on Friday. Alabama was in Saturday. So that there's really it's a wide variety of programs from across the country, like you said. But I mean, day one of the Scholastic recruiting period, and you've got McDermott and Chris Collins there. That says that he's definitely a priority. And like I said, Oregon was there all weekend as well. So those three schools really interested in Ty and everything. So we're going to see where that goes. And I'm sure it's only going to get hotter as July gets closer. And then after that, visits and everything. But Ty played pretty well. The game that I saw on Saturday, he had hurt his hand earlier in the week at Thompson, I believe. So wasn't 100%, but he still played really well against Central Phoenix City. I think they won by 10 or 11 in that game, but he shot it well, just really does what he does as far as spraying it around, being a playmaker for his teammates and everything. So I thought he was definitely the biggest takeaway from me as far as his recruitment goes. Just really exploded.
I'm always interested to see where head coaches go the very first day of the live period, right? And so to have Creighton and Northwestern there, out of the area, not a trip that probably is a common trip for either one of those programs to go from those cities to Birmingham to go watch a player. I'm always interested to see where those guys go the very first chance they can go to watch a guy. So Ty Davis to have Northwestern and Creighton there at those games certainly is telling as to where he lies on their pecking order of players in the class of 2024. And we know that the depth of talent in 24 is solid, but I feel like the class of 25 and 26, Garrett Tucker, is really, really strong. Did we see how much of the health and depth of those classes really kind of rose to the top in your point of view over the course?
It's crazy. Just from conversations from coaches there this weekend on Saturday, it's like, man, 25 and 26 in Alabama are really, really good.
Wow.
And it's obvious. I was going through Twitter when I got home Saturday night, and I mean, there were several underclassmen that picked up offers, whether it be Jeremiah Wilson from Buckhorn. Kennesaw State offered him. He had a really good weekend, I thought, in Birmingham. Clyde Walters from Pinson Valley, 26, forward, really had a really good weekend, I thought. And you just keep going down the board. Colbin Landrew, Jay Green, both of those guys from Thompson. There's just a lot of good young kids right now. We haven't even really spoke about a lot of the 25s. You've got Jacoby Hill, Central Phoenix City played well. Simon Walker from Huntsville.
Yeah.
It's just they just keep coming and coming, and then you got the three guys at Hoover, Salim London, Dwayne Brown, Jarrett Fairley. So I felt like Saturday night, Sunday, Kennesaw State, Tennessee Tech, they were offering all the young kids in the States. I feel like that's what my Twitter timeline and retweets have been the past few days. So it's definitely, the talent is very healthy for sure and on the come up.
Yeah, it's cool to see that, right? Because I feel like the spring, college coaches are so focused on even 23, right? Filling out their roster with the transfer portal, trying to figure out who's coming and going. We've got to get a guy right away. Now they're evaluating 24. In 25s and 26, they just have to be patient. And I feel like this particular weekend, the first weekend of the Scholastic Live Period, is really their first chance where they've really got the snipers focus on them from college coaches, where they're really watching, trying to understand like who's in our area that we can go after and recruit. And I think that's where we see like this influx of offers for so many guys in those younger classes. Is really the first time they've been able to get some eyes on them really in person to key in on those guys. So, and then when you have a lot of healthy talent like we have in Alabama, 25 and 26, it makes a lot of sense to see all those offers kind of coming through. So I'm interested to hear that was the big takeaways from the weekend there in Alabama, because I feel like that's kind of ringing true nationally too. When I look at all the team camps that are going on, those 25 and 26 classes nationally, I feel like those classes are pretty deep across the board nationwide.
Definitely.
Let's move it on down. We had I don't know. It was the Labaron Philno tour, if you will, and different things that are happening. And I'll let you kind of explain what was going on with one of our favorite guys from the great city of Mobile.
Yeah, I'll put it as the Labaron Philno, Alabama swan song. Last day in a Baker uniform on Saturday. They played 2, maybe 3 games, but against Central Phoenix City, he was just really rolling as usual. I wasn't really paying attention. I was like, man, he's scoring a lot. And then somebody asked me after the game, was like, hey, he had 57 in that one, right? And I was like, that doesn't shock me. And then I know they played Huffman later in the evening. And I don't know how he did there, but 57 on your last day before you announce you're going to Link Prep, that's a pretty good day, I would say. A good way to go out. So I've beat that drum for a long time. I love Labaron. Think he's a really, really good guard, and he's going to get to go on the national stage at Link and kind of show what he can do. So I'm excited for that. I'm going to miss having him so close in our backyard and everything. But it was a great way to end that chapter of his career, I thought, for sure.
Let me put you on the spot a little bit. Any idea which coaches were there, which schools were there to watch him play and maybe saw that 57-point game?
I know Alabama had an assistant there. Trying to think who else. Ole Miss was in later in the day. Really, it was kind of quiet on that front for him, in my opinion. Now, there may have been somebody there that I didn't realize. I know Oregon was watching that one as well. But yeah, there wasn't a ton there. Nothing like you would expect. So I don't know if those guys were just kind of changing gears for him to go, and wasn't where he was necessarily playing.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you move to a place like Link, right, you're going to play in the NIBC. I'd be interested to see if he just resets his entire recruitment at one-time Auburn commitment. Certainly one of the best scorers, as we've seen, obviously 57 points in the country. Be interested to see where it goes with him moving forward. Let's talk about a couple other guys that played really well. I know they also played in Atlanta at the GBCA camp going on as well. But let's start with Caleb Harrison from Huntsville. I saw a couple of videos and when I watched online, I was like, man, played really, really well. Looked really agile, really light on his feet, really good around the basket. And you've been banging on that drum for a long time. What did you see from him that you liked?
Yeah, Caleb just keeps playing really well. He built off a really good spring. Had a decent a couple of games at Bama Jam, but I feel like once they got on the UA circuit with Pro One, he played really, really well during those live periods, and he just really took it to the next level this weekend. Huntsville beat Hoover by 1 Friday night. Had a lot of people raving about how he played. He had 22 against Dwayne Brown, who's a high major guy. Was a really good game from everything I've heard. Hate I missed it. Then the competition wasn't as high. There are 2 games on Saturday, but he didn't play down to the level of competition. Just really showed everything he can do. Very skilled, can pass it, stretches out to the three, can shoot it a little bit. I think that light's starting to come on to see. He's realizing how good he really is.
It's funny. A lot of coaches I talked to, sorry to interrupt you, I saw him out here in Arizona on the UA circuit. A lot of coaches that watched him kind of sit under their breath, like, I think Caleb Harrison's got a chance to be really good. They didn't want to let the secret out of the bag too much because I think they all wanted to kind of hold it pretty close to the vest. But it's not surprising to hear that he played well with his high school team, that comfort level there. Not that he didn't play already well with Pro One, but it's interesting to see guys that they grew up with, playing with. The people that get 30 games a season, in the regular season, and that they play really well with those guys. So I'm not surprised to hear that he played well. And from what I saw, he played, like I said, really light on his feet and really agile around the cup. Let me move on actually to Paul Bryant. As you know, I watched a ton of film in the postseason, and I was really impressed with what Paul Bryant did. And I really, really liked what we saw from Adrian Wooley. I thought he was a guy that ended the high school season in the wintertime or early spring really well. How did he play over the weekend at the Alabama team camp?
I love Adrian Wooley. I've talked to a lot of coaches this weekend. It's like he's a plug and play guy. I don't care what level it is. He's going to help you win however he can. And that was on full display Saturday afternoon. Adrian, he can really score it whenever he wants to, but he played the point against Cullman, and anybody that knows Cullman, they're going to press, get after you, throw a lot of things at you, and he really controlled that game, dominated from the jump. Just as Cullman tried to speed him up, and he just played at his own pace and really picked them apart. Very impressive. That was something that you're like, wow. Didn't realize this guy could do this, but he's got ice in his veins. Nothing really deters him. So that was really good. He's become a priority guy. Murray State, Belmont, Kennesaw State offer. I think they're going to come really hard after him. Petway being a Tuscaloosa guy. So it's going to be interesting to see where that recruitment goes in July. But he is really, really good, and he's going to win a lot of games at the next level, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm with you. Everything that I saw from him, every time I've watched him, I totally concur with what you're saying. I'm also, by the way, really interested to see what Kennesaw State does with Petway there now and how much he goes back to the state of Alabama, leans on that. We've already seen him get R.J. Johnson to come over after him and Alabama decided to go a different direction. So he's going on to Kennesaw State. I think we're going to see that pretty often, right? We're going to see the guy from Alabama on that Kennesaw State roster, which, by the way, a little personal note, one of my all-time favorite guys, when I worked at Kennesaw State way back in the day, before they even won a national championship, Terrence Hill, the all-time greatest Kennesaw State player, Alabama guy, playing there from the state of Alabama. So it could be some throwback to the great state of Alabama to Kennesaw State University moving forward. So let's pivot a little bit, Garrett. Let's talk about some of the top teams. Who were some of the top teams that stood out to you at this camp?
Like we said, I think we got to talk about Huntsville first.
Yeah,
they've played really well this month. They've got at least 6 guys, and their top 6, 7 guys are going to play college basketball. So they've played really well. Obviously, they beat Hoover Friday night. That's a big win, beating the reigning 7A state champions. And I think both of those teams will be, they'll be the top 2 teams going into November. So it'll be fun to see how that plays out. But Huntsville, not only do they have Caleb, they've got Simon Walker, Josh Bowman, Eli Stapler, J.D. Gossett, Braden Rivers. It's just on, and they can throw a bunch of stuff at you.
Yeah.
So I thought they played really well. Buckhorn, Caleb Holt, fresh off of winning gold medal with Team USA, he was good. But Jeremiah Wilson, like I said, Kennesaw State offered him. He's starting to figure it out. Long lefty, 6'5", pushing 6'6", can really pass it and shoot it. And then Fred Derrick, point guard, also a 25 guy. They played really well in their game against McAdory Saturday morning. Cullman, thought Cullman was really good. They played 3 games. With the style that they play, 3 full games in a day is borderline child abuse. With how it's pretty rough, and they were sucking wind that 3rd game, but they've got a lot of pieces. Sam Duskin, I really like him. Jake DeRoe runs the show from the pool 1, just really gets those guys the ball. Colton Eccles, thought he had a really good weekend as well. So there was one more team. Oh, and Dothan. Dothan was a sleeper pick, or it made a run in 7A Final Four last year. They return a lot of their guys. Bryson Berry, really good at Bama Jam. I thought he was good this weekend. Liked what I saw from Makai Menifee, rising senior shooting guard. He was very assertive, most assertive I've seen him play, so it was nice to see that. And then I got some other guys too, some young players that got a chance. So it was nice to see them in that atmosphere and environment as well.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how June. What can we learn from June when we think about the postseason in all these states? Regardless of what state that you're in, I feel like we learned so much now in June. We can almost predict what's going to happen in February and March in the high school season. These matchups are tremendous because it doesn't count against your record, right? You want to play apples to apples, and you're getting these great intel opportunities to play some of these games. Like you said, like Huntsville and Hoover, like what a tremendous game to get in the summertime in the state of Alabama.
Arguably, you could say that Huntsville Hoover game may have been the best game of the weekend, no matter where you were.
Totally. Yeah.
And there's been several people that have told me that. And that's high praise, but I think it's warranted for sure.
Well, really, in the country, really, when you think about the whole weekend across the board. So I'm with you. I think these are some huge opportunities. We talked about some of the top teams. Let's talk about some maybe 3 guys that are available, 2024 guys that really stood out to you that maybe help themselves in the recruiting front. Anybody come to mind for you in this space, Garrett Tucker?
Yeah, I really like Tristan Gilmore from McAdory, 6'4", 6'5", wing forward, really athletic, has some intangibles, and a very intriguing guy. I know there were a couple of Division II schools there to see him. I think that's the right area. So he was pretty good in that game that I saw. Grissom, obviously they lost a lot with Izzy Miles and RJ Johnson, but they've got some guys coming up that going to be interesting to see. Justin McCall, athletic guard, thought he helped himself this weekend, and so did Brendan Martin. 6'5", 6'6" guy that can knock down some shots. I know they played well on Saturday and then went over to Lake Point on Sunday as well. So those 3 guys, I thought they did really well. Demopolis, a lot of people won't get to watch Demopolis play. They've got some players that were really good as well and intriguing. So that's the best part about these, this summer stuff is you get to see a couple of guys you had no idea who they were, add them to the list, and track them for the rest of the season. So.
Well, I love that. I think we've talked a lot about these 2024 guys. We've talked about some of the top 2025 guys as that coaches get a chance to see them for the first time. Give me a guy, maybe in the class of 2026, that also impressed you this past weekend.
I'm going to go Jalen Alexander from Oxford. He actually picked up a couple of offers a few weeks ago, Jacksonville State and UAB. Just really dominated the game without having to score the basketball.
Sure.
Something over the years I've really come to appreciate. He just really gets in the lane, throws it around, and his scoring and ability to get to the rim, that's improving as well. But he's just a great passer, understands the game. I thought he was really good. It was good to get eyes on him again. Plays for the Georgia Stars 15U squad. But yeah, he was lights out, and I think they played one game on Saturday against Pelham, and he was by far the most impressive guy in that game. So
I love it. The depth, man, the depth is there. It's ridiculous. It's so interesting to see the state of Alabama. You know, we've been playing our events there for the last 10 years. And it's been cool to see like how many more players we see each and every year coming out of the state of Alabama as the state grows and as basketball continues to grow there in your great state. So, Garrett Tucker, this has been good, man. I know you're going to have a lot more stuff to put out throughout the week. Where can we find you on Twitter if people want to get a cheat sheet going into this coming weekend, of course, as we head into July as well?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at GTuckerHoops. Also going to drop a lot of stuff on the HoopSeen Alabama feed. So that's HoopSeen AL. Be sure to follow that and follow along. It's going to be a busy week for sure.
No question about it. It's going to be a busy week for us as well as we get ready for the Best of South coming up July 6th to the 9th in downtown Atlanta for travel teams during the NCAA Live Period. This is a great week. This is probably the best week to get registered for that event as we get ready for the monster, the epicenter, downtown Atlanta. We have all of our games under one roof down at the Georgia World Congress Center in downtown Atlanta. So we're talking about Scholastic stuff now on the podcast. We're certainly getting ready for travel teams coming up in July. So Garrett Tucker, our Alabama editor, we appreciate all your insight as always, and we'll do it again soon enough. Thanks, Garrett.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.